Phil Thompson with you on another wonderful edition of the Church Solutions Podcast.
Hi, my name is Steve Lacy.
Well, we are in June, Steve. It is, I guess you'd say it's officially summertime, right?
It's getting there, yep.
Yeah, we are hitting triple digits here in the old Pueblo. And I guess other parts of the country are pretty hot too, depending on where you live.
Yes, my phone has been blowing up. Excessive heat warning.
So what do you do to get away from the heat, Steve?
We have a pool, so that is helpful.
Do you actually use it?
Or stay in the air conditioning. So that is,
all right.
As my brother used to say, that's why God created air conditioning.
There you go. Well, I just drive 6 hours to Mission Beach. That's what I do.
Oh, well, all right.
All right. Well, folks, we're a tech company, as you probably figured out by now. And if you listen to us or watch us, you know that we work with churches exclusively. We've been doing this now for 20 years, and we actually have a brand new product. We're going to talk today about, I grabbed an article that I really like from Tony Morgan. And the article is 4 keys to, I can't read because I don't have my glasses on. What's the name of the article, Steve?
4 keys to correct the drift in discipleship habits and encourage people to gather in groups again.
Yeah,
the longest title we've ever done.
Probably is. Well, that's his title. And one of these days we'll have Tony Morgan on when he gets over his hatred of me. But I'm just kidding. I'm sure he doesn't hate me. Probably didn't even remember me. But we talk about tech stuff, but we're also obviously very much involved in churches, and we want to help churches grow. And it's not just with tech, but other things. And I like some of the stats. There's some interesting stats that we want to point out to you in this article. And I think that will help you.
Yeah. Is he associated with Lifeway?
No.
Okay. Because you use a lot of Lifeway stats here.
Yeah. Well, Lifeway's got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Barna and all that stuff. So they're pretty good stats. And by the way, just before we start this, go to mychurchdaily.com. We'll go after the podcast here, but remember mychurchdaily.com. It's a brand new product we have, which will work with your Echo device. And it's a great way to reach your people and to reach other people using this device, which I can't say because I can't shut my microphone off on my device. It's too far away.
I just muted my Alexa device so I can say her name without her jumping up at me.
So check out My Church Daily because it's a great tool, free 14-day trial, and it's really, I think, a very good thing for your flash briefings and stuff. So anyhow, we can talk about that later. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today.
Yes. So this is the drift in discipleship habits. So through kind of through the pandemic and post-pandemic.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, that's kind of, I'm just kind of setting it up.
Right.
So it's kind of going through kind of what changes we went through during COVID and what's going on now that we're coming out of COVID.
Right.
And it really has impacted how people get together in small groups.
Yeah, and so he's got some interesting stats here, and then he's got what I think would be some very practical solutions. So because of the pandemic, and we're coming out of that, as most people know now, we're coming out of it. Churches are starting to meet. One of the things he brings up is not everyone has returned to weekend worship as of yet, and it still might be a while before they do. His group, Tony Morgan's group, is called the Unstuck Group. And they show that the average in-person attendance over the previous 12 months of churches dropped more than 28%, which that would make sense, right? And most churches are seeing about 1/2 to 1/3 of pre-pandemic attendance since the regathering. So there's a drop. It's slowly coming back. It's not great, but it's slowly coming back. The good news, and this is the Lifeway stat that he quotes, is that 91% of churchgoers are planning to return to their pre-pandemic attendance levels when COVID-19 is no longer an active threat to most people's health. And so that's good, and that gives you some hope. There's also some concerning news for church leaders in this research. According to a recent survey, again by Life Research, Lifeway Research, discipleship habits have changed because of COVID-19. And they go on to talk about in January 2020, prior to the emergence of the pandemic, the COVID-19, about 3 out of 5, or 60% of churchgoers say they participated in small groups. And then yet a year later, fewer, and this is U.S. churchgoers, overall say that they were involved in any type of church small groups. And a third, 33%, say that they were participants in 2021, and 4% say they served as leaders. So some stats here. In his cases, people have drifted away from being involved in small groups.
Right. And I think I kind of lean towards, COVID disrupted regular habits.
Right.
People you get into the mode where we just don't go to church now because COVID's going on, and that it's hard to migrate these habits. I don't know about you, but I know when COVID first broke out, I felt really strange putting on a mask and going into a business and then not attempting to rob it. So that was a weird kind of feeling then. And then towards the end, being vaccinated, going into a business, not wearing a mask felt weird. So it's this, and so it's just these habits, I think, that we get that COVID caused that we need to rebound from. So
yeah, now I can relate to that because here in Arizona, we've relaxed the mask restrictions in most situations, not all, but most. But when I went to California last week on vacation, they're still with the mask and all that stuff, and so I had to kind of I literally walked into a business or two and forgot to put my mask on, and they reminded me. They say, "You need to put a mask on." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot. I'm from Arizona." All right, so here's some facts about groups and why groups are important. People who are in groups serve more often using their spiritual gifts. 73% of group members who attended 4 times a month or more said, "I am intentionally putting my spiritual gifts to work, serving God and others." And in contrast, only 42% of the people who did not attend groups said this. So that's one point to make about groups here. So if you haven't figured out, we're emphasizing small groups on this podcast.
Yeah, and these are some really good stats about just people in a group versus people outside of a group. We're going to go through a few more of these here.
Yeah, I think they're pretty enlightening.
Yeah. The next one was that people that are in groups are more financially generous.
Right.
So the people who regularly attended a group reported they gave, this looks like they tithe 10.3% of their income to their church, and people who did not attend a group gave significantly lower rates.
Yeah. And I'm sure some people are listening going, well, it's summertime right now. We can't have groups. Well, we're going to get that out in a moment. But yeah, groups are important. And that's an interesting stat. People are more generous when they're in groups. Another stat is people who are in groups share their faith more. Again, the research demonstrated that people in groups are more evangelistic than those who do not attend the group. People who are in groups practice sharing their faith at a rate almost 4 times more than those who are not in a group. I wonder why that is.
Well, I think, being in a group and talking with your group and sharing your faith with your group is practice for sharing your faith outside your group. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why it is. I think people just get more comfortable with it.
Yeah, could be. Moving along here, people in groups are more relational, and that would make sense. Again, the research proved that people not involved in a group were significantly less concerned about building relationships with others, with other believers, than the people who were committed to attending a group like a Bible study. People in a group are almost twice as likely to intentionally form relationships with people that they meet at church. And I totally agree with that. I think that it just creates an opportunity. It creates kind of a connection there that you can build on.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, some people might go to the personality, well, I'm an introvert, so I don't want to go to a group. And I think that really doesn't apply here. I mean, even if introverts in groups are more relational than
Mhm.
introverts outside of groups.
Yeah. I'm an introvert. I think you are too.
Yes,
Uh,
very much so.
but I said that sarcastically. But I think, I do crave relationships. So I have relationships with two or three guys that I've known for many, many years. And we didn't get together much during the pandemic. One friend and I did, because we would just meet outside in his back porch, and he was okay with that during the pandemic. But I really do. I do miss. I just recently resigned, last December, from my church, and my church is still not meeting. I've resigned from it, and I'm not sure where my future holds as far as that goes, as far as attending there in the future. Now they're not moving. They're not meeting right now. I would assume they would be pretty soon. But I do miss the people. I'm an introvert, but I do miss going to church and connecting with people. The content I can get anytime, anywhere, especially now. Content's available 24/7, almost anywhere. If you're a church using technology as it should be, the content shouldn't be an issue. But what people miss are relationships.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then the last one in this group thing is people in groups pray more.
Yeah.
The results of the survey showed that people who regularly attend a group are almost twice as likely to pray for someone who's not a profession Christian.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there, and again, I think a lot of it has to do with, I mean, what you do in small group is practice for the real world. So, I mean, you tend to pray a lot with your small group, and it just flows out to your outside world.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously the emphasis here is in small groups. I've always believed that. I've led small groups and organized small groups for the multiple churches that I've been in leadership with. And so today we want to talk about, how to get this drift back to people meeting again. And it's summertime, we understand that, but now's a good time to start planning and getting organized and doing some things here for the fall. And not saying you can't do groups in the summer. You certainly can and should if you're able to, but to really do a big launch would be a great opportunity now in the summer to kind of regroup. That's what we want to get into real quickly.
Yeah. And before we get into this, I don't know how widespread it is, but I think one of the things that I really subscribe to that my church started doing many years ago is create semesters for small groups.
Yeah.
So absolutely. That you're not, I know that, I've been attending church and attending small groups for decades. And after a while, you're like, oh my gosh, we're going over to da-da-da's tonight again. We've been doing this for 9 months now. Maybe we should skip tonight, or, you just get worn out. And having these planned semesters, I think has been a great thing where we correspond with the school semester. So take a Christmas break.
Yeah.
And then, so anyway.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think groups are great. And I think it's good to take breaks, and especially, on the host too. And you guys, I know you guys have hosted groups for years, and it wears on your host. If you're hosting a group, you got to kind of get the house ready, and depending on what you've got set up, there's some responsibility.
I think we learned this from the NFL or the sports people, because it's just year round. It's just after a while you're tired of it, but you really look forward to it when it's coming again. Let's get our group going.
Yeah. So. Yeah. All right. So let's just jump into this if you want. 4 points here. 4 points that you might want to think about. The first one is plan an all church small groups campaign for the fall. So in other words, you're going to really gear this up and make a big deal about this. And this is something that, in fact, Mike Gray, and I think you and I and Mike Gray were talking about promoting things in your church. He was talking about promoting My Church Daily. our new product and helping churches do that. But you can, anything that you want to promote, you need to, you really, I'm going to say you need to do overkill because not everybody gets it. And they're certainly talking about it for a week or two isn't enough. You need to really get people excited about it. You need to really do a good job in getting the information out. And it's not just a 1 or 2 weekend announcement. There's more to it than that.
All right. And this talks about creating a where everyone's studying the same thing for a set number of weeks so that everyone's kind of on the same page as you promote it. And we do that at our church too. So I think that's been helpful as well.
Yeah, I think it helps because it gives people something to, you know, you're on the same page together. It limits the rogue groups that can go out there. I mean, it can still happen, but it limits that, and
it
on the same page.
It lowers the burden of the people leading the session as well, because you've got curriculum, you know, and everyone's doing the same curriculum, as opposed to, and we've done a bunch of these, just different studies.
Right.
We said, oh, let's all do a study on, you know, whatever it may be. And we do that let's do that. You know, there's a 10-week study. Let's go drive that thing. So it makes it easy, keeping everybody on the same page, and don't have to think about what do we want to study and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So plan an all church small group campaign. Really launch it. Put some planning, put some thought into it, and start doing it now for the fall, and you will certainly be able to see some success. All right. So number 2. Intentionally recruit and train new small group leaders. This is really important, you know, and something you kind of alluded to earlier, and that is, you know, you do this over and over again, your leaders get burned out, they get tired. So it's real important to find some new people out there, recruit them, train them. It brings some new blood into what you're trying to do.
Yep, exactly. Allows for shift with some of the people to take a semester off or that sort of thing if you've got continually recruiting new people.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, there's different ways to do this. You want to start getting the word out in your communication, and also you want to really maybe meet with your existing leaders and say, hey, who are some people here that could possibly lead some small groups? Who are some people, you know, talking to your leaders, either your small group leaders, and you know, getting some feedback from them as to you know, who would be some good candidates to possibly lead.
Yeah, or even leaders looking within their own group. Say, hey, this guy's really come a long way. Let's have him lead for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
That actually happened in my group. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah, good deal. Yeah. All right. Third point, give people options. Did you want to say something? Did I cut you off?
No, that's it. You got it.
Okay. Give people options for where and how they gather in small groups. Options are, I think, a very good thing. You know, it opens up more opportunities if you give people options.
Right. So, I mean, we've done that as well.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have. I mean, once we were doing online only, and then we said, let's go back. We did a hybrid model for a while, and then we're pretty much full back in person. But giving people opportunities to attend online, I think is good.
Yeah, I think that's true. So, you know, if you've done some online small groups, you know, I probably want to continue to at least make that available to some degree. And so go for that. But again, look at some options out there. Think, you know, I hate to use this term because it's worn out, but think outside the box. Think of something that's a little different, maybe that still might work. I don't know, maybe meeting in a coffee shop, maybe meeting, you know, in a park, depending on your situation and your weather. There's some things to do. I know one group used to meet in a park, and they would bring their kids and let their kids play. And it wasn't too bad. It wasn't, you know, there's a little bit of distraction, but not too much, you know. Yeah. So there's things you can do if you get creative to think about options out there for people to gather.
Yes. All right. And the fourth point is teach the why of small group gathering from the pulpit.
Yeah, that's so important. That's really important because people need to understand the vision. And this is something that I think a lot of pastors sometimes forget about. We're involved in teaching. We want to teach the Bible. We want to help people, but we forget that really vision of what your church is all about and what you're trying to do is so important. And it needs to be incorporated, I think, in almost every message you do to some capacity. It doesn't have to be a whole message on vision. It doesn't have to be a whole message on why you should have small groups, but although that wouldn't be a bad way to kick things off, but I think it needs to be incorporated within your message. And I had one pastor tell me, well, I feel like I'm doing a commercial. Well, you can do it in such a way where it doesn't sound like a commercial. If you can teach and you can do things that and incorporate vision and incorporate what you're trying to do as a church. And I think it will help get people, they'll begin to understand why we do what we do.
Right. You can go through the points we talked about earlier. We gave some ammo there.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
Want to strengthen their walk and relationship with the Lord, then here's some ways to do it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. And you can do that every week on some measure, some degree. So it doesn't always have to be an announcement. Although, as I said at the very beginning of this, you really do need, whatever you're doing, you need to get it out there, and you need to continue to get it out there. And by the time you're tired of hearing it, that's when people probably begin to get it. I was in broadcasting for 20 years, and we used to say, by the time we were sick of hearing a song that we played on the radio, that's about the same time when people started to get it. So people started to enjoy it. We were there all the time. We'd hear the song all the time and get tired of it right away. But eventually people they'd catch on to it. And same way with, speaking of radio commercials, that's why you see commercials all the time on TV and radio, because, not everybody's attentive and they eventually get it. And it goes back to that study, I think, that Billy Graham did years ago. People need to hear the message of the gospel at least 7 times before they make a decision. Is that right? I think it was 7 times, wasn't it?
I thought that was an advertising thing. I didn't think that was a Billy Graham thing.
I don't know.
I
thought it was Billy Graham.
Nah,
so you don't think it's valid? You don't think people need
I
to hear the message?
I think Billy Graham would probably, they don't need to hear the message from him more than once. So I don't know. No,
I don't think it was talking about hearing Billy Graham 7 times. I was thinking hearing the general message of the gospel 7 times.
Yeah, I think it is a common advertising thing that people just zone out, and then the 7th time they go, oh yeah, I can save 15 minutes or whatever, 15% by spending 15 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, or that one Liberty Mutual, that emu or whatever that thing is. All right. Well, we're done here, but want to say one thing. If you need some help on this, if you have questions, you can send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv. That's one of our products. And we do have another product called mychurchdaily.com. Check it out and see if it's something that might be useful for your church, your ministry, and you can get on those Amazon smart speakers. And you can have a message you come out every morning if you want it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so check it out. All right, Steve, thank you so much for your time today.
It's good being here.
All righty. And folks, thank you for listening to another edition of the Church Solutions Podcast or watching it. We're on YouTube. You can see us if you go to streamingchurch.tv and look at our Church Solutions Podcast. We have audio, we have video, or anywhere that you get your podcast. Just look for Church Solutions Podcast. We've been doing this forever, and we'll continue to do it forever. Well, maybe not forever, but for a while. All right, folks, thank you again for your time. Take care of yourselves. We will catch you again next time on another edition of the Church Solutions Podcast. I'm Phil Thompson.